a trade of one of those two, but I think you don't give Gala Kaisa again.
Yeah, I agree. And also, just think back to Ming's Alistar in game number 1. The flash double pulverize that just won the fight immediately. I totally respect banning that one away. EDG value the Udyr here, taking the priority jungler, allowing Gala to have this Kaisa once more. This has been the crux of the RNG strategy, and EDG are saying this was not the problem. They're saying we can deal with this. In fact, we can deal with a Rell as well. I'm not sure that that is a good conclusion to come to, but that's where EDG have landed. We'll see if it works out for them.
RNG going with the expected 2 picks, right? Alistar is banned out, one of the premier counters to Rell, the Thresh in there as well. Sure, you still have things like the Nautilus that could come out, but EDG making a drastic change up, going towards the Senna Tahm Kench. Again, in LPL, this lane a lot of the time is played more aggressively because Tahm Kench is a very solid laner, has a lot of damage, does provide the CC early on, but typically when you see this right, it points to, hey, we are going to play more on the top side of the map, especially that level 6 mark when we do have those double globals coming out. And that's something we haven't seen out of EDG yet. Sure, we've seen them play around Scout quite a bit, but we haven't really seen them put resources into Flandre like we've been highlighting all day.
Yeah, we haven't seen this from Viper a single time this year. This is not a style that EDG have shown. Whether or not they are capable, we will find out over the next few minutes' time. Into the second phase, though, as Olaf was the final lock in there for RNG. We'll see what the bans end up being, because you can anticipate they're probably just going to target Scout once more.
I think it's a good call, right? Assuming they don't go back to the game 1 strat where they did leave that last pick for Cryin and they just ended up picking a Viktor, which I'll be honest, I still don't think that was that good. You could have just done that on 4 and got the counter pick on the Nocturne, but here they're going to ban out some mids on 4. I think you then go for a blind yourself. And one thing about Cryin, as we highlighted earlier, he does look very proficient and very comfortable on those blind pick champions. I even think for him, you'd even be fine just going back towards something like a Viktor and just playing out that style. But when you have this amount of globals, I also want to keep in mind that the Twisted Fate is available. But if we saw the Twisted Fate, I would expect a Sylas ban to have to come out right now from RNG.
Yeah, that Sylas has been such a crucial pickup for EDG regularly. It's going to be the Nocturne banned away. So EDG could ban that Twisted Fate, like you said, or you just leave both available, right? And have the Sylas as the answer. We'll have to see where EDG go with this last ban. Could also just go for another top lane ban. Maybe ban something like the Jayce if you want to go for the Gnar yourself. We'll have to see.
My problem is with leaving both of those open, I don't think there's a good answer. Like, you yourself can pick the Jayce on 4 as RNG and then save the counter pick for mid lane coming out from RNG. But still, I think that's a bit dicey. You're going to opt into a volatile match top lane when, again, there is this good amount of globals coming out from the side of EDG. But hey, they do it.
Yep, the Jayce locked in. And EDG just banned that Malphite. That's one of the really great picks into the Jayce. That's one of the things that we so often see. Sion would be available if Flandre wants to go in that direction. That's something we've seen a little bit against the Jayce. We'll have to see, though. And also, Scout has to go for that blind pick. This would be surprising to see the Gnar just opt into the Jayce matchup. This is not a favorable matchup for Flandre.
Very similar, like a lot of the matchups we talk about in topside, that in the isolated 1v1, Jayce will win out. When you are Mega, you have opportunities to play around that 2v2. And right now, they're hovering over this Viktor. I'll be honest, I don't really like it too much. You have range coming out on the side of RNG. Jayce, I think, is a very good pick into the Viktor. Jayce is also a phenomenal pick into both Tahm Kench and Senna as well. But they're going to go for it. They're just going to opt into this, like, straight up 5v5 team fight composition. There's a lot of scaling on both sides. I don't feel like you have a great way of utilizing the globals you have in your composition either.
This is not the early game that we got to see versus FPX. This is not drafting agency to be able to play the map early on. This is saying, RNG, the early game is yours. Do what you can with it. We're going to win in the late game team fights. I'm not going to lie, Lyric. I'm not filled with confidence for EDG off of this draft. After the early games we've seen in game number 1 and 2, with RNG having a Twisted Fate, having Gala on the Kaisa, having a Rell, Xiaohu on Jayce, when he's against a whole list of champions that Jayce works well against. This feels fantastic for RNG. It feels like they got everything they could have wanted.
Yeah, it did pan out as predicted for RNG. The thing is, with the composition they've opted in for, there at least still is a win condition on the board for EDG, right? They definitely will outscale in those late game team fights. The problem is that RNG's composition has a lot of agency, a lot of proactivity, and they can definitely get this snowball rolling. And this goes back to the playstyle that they were playing all split during the regular season, where they were just snowballing games. And let's remember that they did 2-1 EDG during the regular split.
Yeah, and Lyric, coming into this game 3, we got to see something from EDG. I don't care about the compositions. I don't care about correct League of Legends anymore. We need to see some kind of miracle for EDG. We need to see them come back in this series. Because if this is the way that EDG's spring story ends, in a whimper instead of a bang, I will be so incredibly disappointed after their performance against FPX. But here we go. Game number 3. RNG currently sitting pretty 2-0 on the cusp of making their way to the final to look towards another trophy for the organization. We'll see if EDG can find something deep within, use the veterancy on their roster, and come back and force us to 4 games.
The great thing about EDG's comp, though, is, you know, if we do get to that mid to late game point, they do have a lot of pick tools to deny the pick potential coming out from RNG, right? Between all the sustain coming out from Senna, the zone control coming out from Viktor, and the Devour, most importantly, coming out from Meiko. If they can get to that point, it's going to be good. It also feels like this bot lane denies a lot of aggressive options coming out for RNG on the bot side. But we know with RNG's draft, they will be looking towards that top lane. And one of the big weaknesses about Gnar, he's one of the easiest champions to dive in that mini form.
That is very true, and guess what? Olaf loves to go for those dives as well. Xiaohu will finish that ward, and that's quite important. Solo laners getting an early ward kill does give them a little bit of a bonus when it comes to XP. So Xiaohu, if he didn't already have advantages being Jayce into Gnar, also will get that level 2 earlier on than he should.
Yeah, you know, as a solo laner, if you do kill a ward and you get the solo XP, it only takes 1 wave to hit that level 2 mark, so we are going to keep an eye out on top lane. That was what we expected all along. When we look at runes especially, though, the only thing to kind of shout out is Cryin with the spellbook. It is pretty common on Twisted Fate, right? You're more opting into a utility role later on. You don't really have any kill pressure in this laning phase. We're going to see some trades coming out from both laners right now. Scout will be on the receiving end, as we talked about the strength of Viktor in level 1s in the last game.
Yeah, just hit level 2 as well. And Cryin actually steps up for the trade there. Perhaps not not necessarily the trade that you want to be taking there, Cryin, as he's really struggling in that laning phase. Ming gets himself a shield. Xiaohu did hit that level 2 early, like we discussed. You see Flandre knows all about that, stays far, far away from the minions, accepts that he's just going to get zoned for a little while. But let's talk win conditions here. Let's talk RNG, because we said, you know, EDG have to play it slow. Meiko's caught out in the lane, will get out with his life at very least, and Viper's getting a good amount of damage down. Important to mention as well, Viper is playing that fasting Senna. It will be Meiko farming here. But let's talk about how RNG find this snowball, because this does feel reminiscent of the regular season, right? With the Twisted Fate, with Xiaohu on Jayce. Feels like the top lane is an option of a win condition here for RNG.
Yeah, for RNG, we already see that Wei did clear towards his top side. I think in these early levels, you are just putting some defensive vision down. You're going to see if Xiaohu is able to stack a wave, and I think you're trying to target that around the level 6 mark and then go for that dive that we did talk about. That's pretty much going to be a rinse and repeat play for RNG until neutral objectives come up. Then it's about rotating that Jayce and rotating that advantage down and using that prio to take things like the Rift Herald. For EDG, I think you just want to be the team this time to shadow, right? Jiejie doesn't need to make too many aggressive options. If they do get some vision down on the bottom side when Senna, Tahm, Kench have push, if they can spot out way down there, you do then have an opportunity to punish the push coming out from Xiaohu. But I think a big thing that's great for EDG is we have seen that Scout has been at least the superior laner. You know, he's been stronger in the laning phase. If you can try and keep that TF under turret, if you can get a lot of vision around your mid lane and just prevent those dives from coming out, again, you're just fine going into that mid-late game point if the game stays even.
And I think that's an important thing to bring up, that Cryin has not been renowned for his laning phase. That's not the reason that Cryin is a great mid laner in the LPL, right? It's kind of a similar story to like Doonby a couple of years ago, right? Where it's not about how good he is in the 1v1, it's about getting out of that 1v1 and influencing the rest of the map. Not to take away from his laning, but it's certainly not the thing that to write home about Whereas for Scout, it feels like that mid lane pressure, the early laning phase, is actually one of his big strengths, as well as the team fighting on things like the Azir and the Viktor. So definitely feels like two very different styles of mid laners. They both have the picks that suit that style that they've been playing so much. Feels like this is a matchup where we discover which style is better.
This also feels like a stepping stone for Cryin, in my opinion, because Cryin is a good mid laner, you know, by all metrics. We've all been super hyped about him since his E-Star days, but I still don't feel like he's in that elite tier of mid laners, and like he doesn't perform at the same level as Scout on a good day, as Knight, as Rookie, as Fofo, as Doinby. He's kind of in like that next line for me. And, you know, he's getting more experience under his belt. He's still a very new player. He is still a good player. And, you know, with this win today, with more experience and getting a rematch against FPX, it feels like this is where we can really start to see Cryin start to blossom.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important point you bring up there. And it's the same point for Wei, is that both Cryin and Wei, this is only their second year. This is their third split in the professional league. And we're in the lower bracket final. This is a huge step forward for them as players. And they are surrounded by veterancy that can set them up. Gala and Ming looking for the 2v2 because there's a TP from Xiaohu as well. Viper is taken out of the game once more. Meiko will go down as well. It's 2-for-1 for RNG because in the meantime, Cryin got caught in the mid lane.
And we've seen this all series. We even saw this up against FPX in RNG's loss, that Xiaohu now is dedicating so many TPs down towards that bottom lane. I think we should be fine. Flandre almost mega, but Wei does have flash. I like you highlighted the pick coming off in the mid lane as well. We didn't get to see what happened. There were actually no flashes burnt on either side, so I'm not quite sure how they locked down Cryin, were able to kill him without Udyr having to flash stun or Cryin being able to flash away.
Yeah, I'm not sure, as we're going to have a 1v1 between Flandre and Wei. Flandre dodges the axe, though, and that should mean... Oh, never mind. There's a TF. Doesn't matter. Scout now comes in, looks for the revenge kill, tries to finish off Wei, but he sacrificed his life maybe for this one. Cryin gets the gold card. No, didn't lock it in time. He could have W'd, but he didn't go for it. Jiejie gets a Drake in the meantime, and out of nowhere, suddenly we're at 100 miles an hour, Larry.
I still think even had he locked in the gold card, he probably still would have lived because his gravity field placement was very good, not allowing Xiaohu to be able to follow up had he flashed over it, but we are going to get a replay. Actually, just the wave was bouncing back from Cryin's tower. He's, you know, pushing up, and they just run in and kill him. No flashes needed, no real damage, nothing special. Oh, is Xiaohu maybe finding something special in the mid lane?
Recall from Jiejie. They don't actually have vision of Jiejie recalling here, so he will just get away with that one. They're looking for Scout. Gold card available. Here we go. Flash for the stun. In comes Xiaohu. See you later, Scout.
In mid lane dives, you love to see it. This must be some PTSD for Scout as well because he got dove in his last series against Doinby. We all remember the famous clip with Doinby spamming the timers coming out, but you always love to see when teams are able to pull off mid lane dives because they are the most rare and obviously the most hard to pull off because there's multiple windows. You can like dodge that. Maybe a jungler can be coming around from a different side. As you highlighted, they actually didn't know that Jiejie was recalling there, so you know he could have been close by to the play. But RNG have the burst. They burn a flash for it, but ultimately I still think it's worth. Xiaohu is getting massively ahead. We see the Merc Treads coming out for Cryin as well. So when you look at EDG's team composition with the amount of CC they have, that's going to be so valuable.
Feels like a little bit of revenge for Cryin as well after getting that horrific CC chain from the Udyr and Viktor. Being able to get that revenge kill will be very nice for him, but also Xiaohu. Look at the scoreline, 2-0-1. Serrated Dirk, he's hitting like a freight train right now. And that is only going to get worse for Flandre. And remember, EDG picked this matchup for Flandre. They picked Gnar into Jayce. That is not something that you see often. Jayce is the answer to Gnar, not the other way around. Herald started up here, and we're seeing both teams closing the gap. EDG, the one starting this one off, but RNG are hanging around. Wei wants to move in, but Herald is taken. Jiejie grabs the eye, and EDG now on full retreat. Hex flash over the wall from Ming. Does have the gravity storm, but won't pull the trigger. And it looks like RNG toy with the idea of the fight, but never fully commit. Oh, now Xiaohu's in trouble. It continues, Lyric. It's never ending. Flandre with the damage here. Xiaohu should go down. One more auto attack to the hyper. Flashes away, though. And he gets out with his life. Less than 10 HP, and Xiaohu survives.
living on a knife's edge. Does try to return some damage because he knows that his jungler is coming up. Still, the Dawning Shadows comes out from the Senna, as we highlighted earlier, is able to get away. But I want to go back to talking about that Herald almost skirmish for a second, in that RNG wanted to look for it because Flandre didn't have flash, Scout didn't have flash, and Viper as well didn't have flash. So having a summoner spell advantage, they're going to have a lot of windows and angles that they can play from. They were just a bit too late on the rotation though, because by the time all the members got up there, you saw that EDG were able to funnel into the chokes of their jungle. And when you look at their composition thrives in choke points with the amount of CC that they're able to layer in those scenarios.
And when you think about how EDG have succeeded across the course of this year, it has been in those kind of scenarios, right? The way that they control the map, the way they deny entry into choke points by other teams. These are the teamfight successes that we've seen. So I agree. I think it was good that RNG don't just brute force a contest on that one. The fact that they get away with Xiaohu surviving on a serrated Dirk's Edge, if you will, up in the top side. Very lucky for them to get away with that one. We do have a dive on the top side while a 2v2 happens on the bot lane as well. Gala looking for Viper once more. Viper does not get to play in this series. Does actually somehow get out with his life. Jiejie's here to answer. Gala can't answer for the kill. Viper survives.
Really nice punishment coming from EDG, but I still think overall, the fact that RNG are diving top and are winning out pretty much in this 2v2 in bot lane, right? They almost got kills on both sides of the map at the same time is a pretty damning sign coming out for EDG in the rest of this game. Still, they do get the kill on the Gala. Gala is losing a bunch of EXP, a bunch of gold right now. Viper and Meiko should be able to pick up a plate as well, and gold is going to stay pretty even.
I'm not sure what Ming was trying to do there. I'm not sure if he was trying to last hit the Grump, but just ends up taking a few hits and then running away. First tower taken by RNG on the top side of the map. Not quite answered in the bottom lane, though, as Ming and Gala are able to defend their tower. And so when we look at the gold, it is a little in favor, 1,000 in favor of RNG. But importantly, look where the gold is. It's in the pocket of Xiaohu. And we can see the dive that set this all up as Cryin roams top once more.
And he walks out of turret range. So Xiaohu, even though attacking first, didn't even take any aggro. We do see Cryin walk up, hit the gold card, and I mean, it just one and done. He was also in a large stacked wave that Xiaohu had as well, so taking all that minion damage. And we saw both teams reset at about the same time, so no real tempo advantage coming out onto the map with who's going to be able to control River. It was from two different sides. RNG had controlled that bot lane to where EDG Scout was pushing out the mid wave, but none of that actually matters because Jiejie is going to try and say, hey, we can't contest bot side. We're going to try and play around this Jayce up top. I'm not sure if Flandre is building a wave because we haven't panned over it yet, but there could be an avenue there. Even Scout is hovering towards this side of the map.
Oh, there's definitely an avenue. Xiaohu's in trouble. He's not getting away with 10 HP this time, says Jiejie. The stun is there, the layered CC, the damage from Scout, and he gets 600 gold for his trouble as well. That's a nice pickup for EDG. That'll certainly close the gap a little bit. But now Cryin gets the time to push in the mid lane. You can see a push in the bottom side as well from Gala and Ming.
And right now, I think Wei is just going to hover around bot side. You're going to force him off tower. You're not necessarily looking to force this dive yet. You're going to steal away some jungle camps and at least even out that gold advantage a little bit, right? So, nice response coming out from RNG. Also, to that top lane dive, maybe people are wondering why Xiaohu queued in instead of trying to posture back. Jiejie was going to be able to cut him off, so I think it was the best call. Turn hammer for him, queue in, get as many minions as you can before you go down.
Yeah, just try and deny the wave, try and stop them being able to take towers off the back of it. Because that's ultimately the goal, right? Especially for EDG. If they can get a few plates, that's a consolation prize. Remember, they are running a scaling composition. They are not the team that should be winning the early game. We should never expect EDG to be winning this early game. If you're a fan of EDG, watching at home and praying for a win here, praying for a game 4, look towards the late game team fights. And every time you see these early skirmishes, you got to be a little bit nervous.
And I think another good thing, right, is the fact that every time we do pan back to the mid lane, Scout is just putting down so much punishment. He is consistently hitting turret. I want to see if EDG do anything with this top wave here. It looks like Flandre is just going to push it out. You could say, hey, you know, he could try to go for a bit of a freeze until that Herald does come up. But Herald's coming up soon. Maybe they want to start posturing for topside vision control. Both Meiko and Viper are also coming back out onto the map now as well.
One thing I do want to say here, Lyric, is this feels infinitely better for EDG than the previous games. As Ming walks in, Scout should be fine. Doesn't get to go for his recall here. Herald's respawning soon, which is why RNG are grouping up, getting vision here. But this feels infinitely better from EDG. This feels more like an EDG game that we've seen throughout the regular season. Scout having a few kills. He's not been shut out of the game this time. They've got scaling on their side. And when you look at the composition from RNG, like on paper, yes, you can find picks and you can do magical things there. But EDG have been very good at just staying grouped in late games, not getting picked apart, not allowing enemies to separate them. So it does feel like, for the first time in this series, EDG have usable win conditions that are going to work.
EDG have also made one adaptation from the previous 2 games where we saw them consistently trying to match RNG, and even further than like posture and match, they would like hard force into RNG the last 2 games, right? Even when they were in losing situations. This game, they just keep split mapping. They will go to the opposite side of the map where RNG is, as we just saw with this Rift Herald once again as well. It allows them to get a turret on the bottom side of the map. Once again, stay very even in gold. So nice map play this time around, coming out from EDG to, you know, stay in it.
And you mentioned that they're even in gold. I want to ask you, Lyric, is that a big issue for RNG? Am I overstating how fast RNG needs to play this game, or is it over the next couple of minutes when Drake's coming back up that they should be looking for picks to accelerate?
I definitely think the longer this goes, it's gonna be a very hard one for RNG. And you know, this could go into a conversation where I remember I was talking to you about this earlier, that I don't think Jayce falls off as hard as a lot of people, you know, make it seem, where it's like, hey, you need to win the game by 20 minutes or Jayce is useless. I think itemization is very good for Jayce. He scales well, does a ton of damage against squishy members. He's gonna have a lot of value. And it feels like later in the game, Jayce might have the most value, him and the Kaisa, right? The Twisted Fate's pretty much just gonna be a stun bot with the way that Twisted Fate builds. Going with things like the rapid fire cannon, you're not really building for DPS. So you're just pure DPS on the side of EDG. So definitely feels like RNG need to start finding a way to create picks in the side lane, start ballooning that gold lead, and especially around the 20-minute mark is when we need to see that, so they can turn that into something like the Baron.
Destiny was actually used there to no avail. It obviously spotted everyone out, but didn't actually go for the port. What goes up towards the top lane here just to match Scout and clear those minions away. Scout's going to have TP up, I think, just before this Drake spawns, so this could be an opportunity for EDG to maybe find a numbers advantage and force something off the back of it. Cryin does have Unsealed Spellbook. I don't know if the teleport would be available for him, but with a Herald here, looks like RNG are just going to answer on the opposite side and potentially trade a tier 2 for a tier 1. This is a huge macro swing in favor of RNG, but actually not committing to the Herald. I'm a little surprised by that one.
Yeah, I'm also a bit perplexed. It's about halfway timed out. They're going to turn it into a dragon right now. Maybe they just go and use it on the mid lane. Again, it's something we've said many times, is the fact that when you have something like a Viktor, you have this like really annoying wave clear. And you yourself don't have much wave clear, it feels like it's going to be very hard to find opportunities to break down mid turret other than with something like a Rift Herald. Yeah,
so could use that mid instead and find that window into the game, especially when you've got a Jayce as well. I think that's an important thing, is that Xiaohu can go and deal with the tier 2 later on. He will be able to threaten tier 2s. He will be able to pressure in the side lane. So it's not the end of the world if you can't get the tier 2s early. So I agree with you there that perhaps mid lane is the best option. Look at where Wei is on the map right now, though. He is, I think, alone. There are so many pings that I can't actually see. Yeah, it looks like he was. But he backs away in the end, has the Herald enhanced recall here so he can get out of there. And Jiejie will be able to grab himself that red buff, continues farming on up. And we're actually in a very even game right now, Lyric, which I am over the moon to say. After how one-sided game 1 and 2 were, I was really worried that this was just going to be an absolute stomp in favor of RNG. Feels like EDG are controlling this early game far better.
Yeah, and this setup coming out from both teams. Engage, though.
Yeah, Ragnarok comes through, which means the root won't land. And I think that's going to be all from that early skirmish here. I think Wei just walks away. Ragnarok, 2 OP.
That was really interesting anticipation coming out from EDG, because what RNG did there, if you noticed, was they pushed out both side lanes. You can see in the top wave, Cryin set that one up a little bit ago. They group mid, and EDG anticipated that to happen. They group mid prematurely. Ming, a bit low. Yeah, they group mid prematurely, and they cleared the wave before RNG can even get there. So RNG not able to make the play that they just spent the past minute setting up.
Yeah, and unfortunately, off the back of that, Wei has to just slam the Herald top. It was about to time out. He's like, well, best laid plans of mice and men. Should have just dropped it at the bot tier 2 after all. And look at this from RNG. They want to bait someone in, but Scout is well aware, has the blue trinket, and I think that was actually stolen by Jiejie with a smite there. So nicely done. At least EDG protect their buff, even if they can't get it onto Scout.
Homeless Bearman does strike again, or did he? I'm actually not sure if Xiaohu already had that blue buff, but
well,
you know, right now
according to the courts, he's struck many times. he's got a bit of a record.
I do like that we're seeing RNG get some vision around topside with Baron coming up, but EDG have been making the right moves, right? You can ignore your side lane waves in certain instances in this meta that is so 5v5, so neutral objective heavy. They did that last time around. Sure, they lose a bit of CS, but they gained a lot of pressure in mid. Now they're only about 100 gold behind, and they can just keep making this play. Hey, you know, it doesn't matter if you ignore the wave in about 2 minutes. Catch waves until then, try to counteract some vision, group up, look to counter that big RNG punch that they need to look for. The thing is, neither team is really close to getting towards Soul. There's still going to be a ton of time in this game, and that is going to favor the side of Edward Gaming.
Oh, for sure. And I think I've just made a revelation of kind of the origin story for Udyr here. As it's just dawned on me that there are a lot of similarities between Homeless Guy in a bear suit punching people and Florida Man that we always see in the headlines. They're both often running around near rivers, both often seen near crocodiles. We always see this homeless bear man near crocodiles. I'm thinking there's maybe a correlation here. Florida Man finally made his way into League of Legends.
Confirming Udyr is an NA champion. I like it. Jesus, though. That was savage, Munchables. When was the last time you were even in Florida?
It was about 4 years ago, actually. I was in, what's it called? Spring Hill, is it? Near Tampa. It was nice.
Oh.
It was warm.
I thought I baited you. I could have sworn you've never been to Florida.
I have been to Florida, and I went to Disneyland, and it was great. Thank you for asking. Have you ever been to Florida? Let's talk about League of Legends.
Wait, before we talk about League of Legends, Florida is way too humid. Okay, back into the game. We see EDG, pushing out this wave mid, maybe punishing Gala, dragging up in 42 seconds, Munchables. Take it away.
Yeah, and this Dragon Pit going to be getting real humid as well. But luckily it is that Cloud Soul, so there'll be a nice breeze to blow some of that humidity away. RNG trying to group up here. Remember, RNG are the pick composition. RNG are the ones that have to set the pace. But look where Cryin is on the map. He's all the way up in the top lane. Flandre has TP. Cryin does not right now. This could be an advantage for EDG. Grouping up, just blocking the shock blast. And honestly, Xiaohu is not hitting as hard as perhaps he needs to be. 10 seconds until this Drake comes up. Flandre goes for the TP. Destiny available, but Cryin still quite far away. EDG could potentially start this Drake up. RNG just group up in the jungle here, but they realize they can't actually face check in here. Vision going to be cleared. EDG could just turn towards the Drake. You can see Cryin off towards the side. Destiny available. Now pops it and ports in behind the team. Gold card in, as with the Everfrost, and nice little position from Cryin to get himself out of the fray once more. Flandre is low. He's about to turn Gnar. He's on the flank behind Cryin and Xiaohu, but they know exactly where he is. It's difficult for him to move in. Just this extended dance between the two teams, and EDG finally start the Drake off. RNG trying to contest. Here we go. Team fight on our hands. In goes Ming with the Gravity Storm. Meiko tanking a lot of damage, as is Flandre, but he's forced to the back of the pit and taken down. RNG start off strong as Cryin goes in, but it's 1-for-1 support for top laner. The Chaos Storm. Wei will fall, and EDG finally find themselves some advantages, chasing for more as they look for Cryin, but they realize it's too far, and they settle for a Drake.
Munchables, that one started off beautifully to me. I love the way both teams were playing it out to where EDG were keeping their formation strong. The poke wasn't really doing anything. The Tahm Kench was blocking a lot of it. The sustain from Senna was coming out. Then RNG made the adaptation. I saw pings going towards the bot lane. It's like, hey, go to where we have prio. Use that prio to threaten a flank, to throw down some more poke. And ultimately, EDG do come out ahead because of draft difference, but I really think Flandre kind of misplayed this one. He jumps in, ults down, when he could flash up, ult the 3 towards the wall, and guarantee like a massive victory for the side of EDG. Gets a single man ult, goes down, but again, luckily, you look at RNG's comp, you have Olaf and Rell and Kaisa who want to dive in, but you don't really have the other members to go along with that. Jayce wants to stand back throughout the accelerated shot blast, maybe follow up for cleanup, and Cryin is just cycling through his W, looking for gold cards to throw out. So a bit of a mismatch with how their team wants to operate team fights, and that's why they don't really want to come into team fights at an even setting. So despite the fact that EDG is only up about 200 to 300 gold right now, it definitely is a much bigger advantage for that than that in terms of who will control the map and who will set the pace of this game.
And it feels like right now it's EDG actually setting the pace. Look at the control that they have around the Baron pit here. Gold just about even, and as we said, the scaling very much in favor of EDG. We're getting to the point now, 25 minutes in, where the items are starting to come through. Rageblade nearly finished on Viper. 2 items for Scout. Flandre's caught out. The Destiny, though, can't close the gap, but Flandre, you're on the wrong side of the map, mate. You're running the wrong way. The rest of EDG trying to get over there. Tahm Kench with Abyssal Voyage can certainly change the numbers game, and Flandre has a way to get back to his team now. I don't know if he's interested. I think he wants to start the fight himself on this one. Cryin looking for a gold card. The blue trinket as Flandre hops over the wall. And EDG get away with the heist.
That was crazy because we didn't actually see how Cryin ended up there. He clearly used his Destiny, but he also used a flash to get on top of Flandre. So I'm not quite sure with between Destiny and then flash, how you guys aren't able to lock down Flandre long enough to secure a kill.
Well,
and
they're
EDG
just going to run
turning
straight
it to a
into
Baron
here. Yeah, Rage Knife in the pocket of Viper, so he has a good amount of damage. This is visible. You can see the control ward in the back of the pit from RNG. They can see the health bar. They know exactly what's going on. The damage from the Jayce is huge. Ming goes in and finds the opportunity. Gnar against the wall, though. It's 1-for-1. Support's going down as the damage is insane. The Chaos Storm shreds RNG. In goes Flandre, and EDG finally find the fight.
You just don't run into a Viktor and a Senna Munchables. It's not going to be a good time. Scout popping off, putting down all that damage. And EDG are making this game competitive. Again, it's only a few thousand gold lead, but with the scaling difference, with the composition difference, with how Dragon and teamfight heavy this meta is, it feels more like a 5 to 10k gold difference on the side of EDG right now.
This feels absolutely massive. And again, we talked about how EDG love to control the choke points. RNG just funnel in a single file line into that river choke. It's just like everything just blasts in a straight line through the squad.
I'm just saying, if it was like an elementary school hallway, the teachers would be proud. You were right. It was, very organized. Look at it one by one, just running in. Look at Viper, look at Scout. They're just standing back there. Dawning Shadows come out. We've seen the E come out. Jiejie flashes in to guarantee the stun. And again, just so much AoE coming out with Scout's ultimate layering on top of it. And that was not it, Munchables. That was not it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how RNG are meant to play out this game with the Twisted Fate and the Jayce. You're looking for picks, right? You are not looking for the big all-out team fight. And I feel like RNG thought they had the moment, right? Where Ming goes in with the Gravity Storm. It felt like they thought that was the big play to win the game. It was not. They couldn't finish the kills. And now a dive coming out from EDG. They know that they're in control of the game and they are willing to flex their muscles. Down the bottom lane, they barrel with a Baron buff. This might be an in.
And we see that RNG know that they can't contest, so they're trying to answer on the opposite side of the map. They're allowing EDG to push this one in. They're trying to get more gold on Xiaohu. Does take that one down. He is going to keep going. I think their best bet's to trade an inhibitor for an inhibitor. I wonder if EDG would just opt into a base race, but with Flandre backing, they're just backing off.
Honestly, I'm glad for EDG that they don't overcommit to this one. Just go home, reset. You definitely don't need to base race this, but I'm not going to reset just yet. Inhib wasn't taken by Xiaohu. EDG just a straight up net win right here for them. 5,000 gold lead almost now in their favor. After the early game was far more tempered. They were able to control RNG. They didn't let RNG snowball, and it feels like now they're reaping the rewards of that controlled early game. They get a Drake on top of it. They got the bot lane Inhib. Now they can play towards top side.
And the big thing to me is, in some team compositions, when the enemy doesn't really have the power to break your base, I think the fact that they break open an inhibitor isn't always bad because it just means you are getting more gold funneled into your base to pick up to get towards more item spikes. But the thing is, EDG have great CG. Like, they are happy with the bot lane pushing, and they don't care that you're picking up more gold because not only do they outscale you, but then, hey, you have one-member bot. Our Viktor and Senna are just free hitting on mid lane turret. Our Gnar is taking turret up and top side, and it's going to open up more avenues for EDG to just end this game faster.
And it feels fantastic as well to see Scout having a great performance here. Because in the early laning phases, he's been looking good, but like the Azir flanks where he was just getting one shot in the fights in game number 1, game number 2 as well, really unable to have an impact. Here in game 3, it feels like he has been set up for success by the rest of his team. Him and Viper both, after the rough early game for Viper, it doesn't matter, he's on the center, they can go for this, they can look for more. Tower goes down, Flandre has to back away because he was low. A TP being used here by Xiaohu. I'm pretty sure you could have just walked there, to be honest, mate. He's basically teleported to... It's an advanced Hex Splash is what it is. Just teleported to the very fringes of the base.
The deadliest Jayce flanked Munchables, throwing out those accelerated shock blasts. But, yeah, for RNG now, Munchables, they don't have too many options. They need to grow up as 5-man. They need to hope that these accelerated shock blasts hit some priority targets now that... You know, Xiaohu's been sitting on the Sorelda's Grudge, also does have the Guardian Angel, but...
I mean, he's big. He's real big.
You have a Senna, a ton of sustain, the Tahm Kench devours there. Udyr and Gnar can both body block those, and they feel completely fine. And at this point, right, Gala can't jump in, because Gala has no one to follow up. You need someone on EDG to misposition. You need to try to do what you did earlier, where you're threatening this flank from bot side, where you're pushing someone like Flandre off the objective. He's singled out, and then maybe you're able to turn on Flandre first, get that pick, and then turn that into a 5v4 team fight.
So I have a question for you, Lyric, here. Does it count as a Flame Horizon when the person that you're out CSing is a Tahm Kench? I feel like Tahm Kench inevitably is going to kind of suck at farming, so I feel like he doesn't really fit in the category. But I will say, Scout definitely fits in that category, and he's almost 100 CS up on Cryin right now in the mid lane. He's having the time of his life. Ming almost getting caught. The crash down to get him out, but is it enough here? CC chain coming through. The wallop is there. Ming doesn't get to move. The Dawning Shadow to finish it off. And they might get a bonus kill onto Wei as well. Flashes out safety, gets out with his life here. And Meiko saves Jiejie, pulls him out of the base.
Oh.
Remember, the top tower's already taken. That's a lot of damage. But they've got some sustain.
Yeah, that was actually an unexpected bit. Xiaohu did actually pick up another serrated Dirk, but we highlighted the siege potential they have earlier. You see it right there with that laser coming out. Luckily for RNG, the combination of the accelerated shock blast, the twisted fate Q, and then the Q coming out from Kaisa is like all of it added together is actual sufficient way to clear. Holy!
Viper almost gets one shot. That was insane. Xiaohu is doing his utmost to keep the team in the game.
And this goes back to the point earlier where it's like, hey, you know, Jayce's damage doesn't really fall off into the game. Again, sure, you can stack armor, there are certain targets that it's not worthwhile to hit, but there's a lot of armor pen in this game right now. You know, he doesn't even have the Black Cleaver as well, which would as well give him that armor shred, but he's always going to deal high damage to members like Viper and Scout, 2 accelerated shock blasts, getting Viper down to about 1% HP, and pretty much all the eggs for an RNG win right now are in the Xiaohu basket.
Yeah, we can see 141 souls on Viper as well. That is a very scary Senna with the rapid fire cannon finished off as well. He's got long range. He's going to hit like a truck. And RNG have to pray for some big accelerated shock blasts. As you say, doesn't really fall off when you're hitting the right targets. And especially with the changes to Moramana, you really do get massive value out of that item now. Baron is just going to be started here by EDG, and I don't think RNG can even contest this one. It's already down to 6,000. Wei is not going to be able to get in the pit if EDG just burst this, but they're deciding to fight here. Gold card goes in. Meiko just saves his teammates. Flandre turns Mega. RNG can't really commit to the fight. With Ragnarok now on cooldown, it's time for Flandre to go in. Good damage there, but it's a Gravity Storm to answer. Dawning Shadow is shielding for days. It is Scout to go down first. RNG are actually turning this one. Xiaohu, we said he needed to carry, and carry he shall. The Spring Emperor himself, the Tiger, steps forward, and RNG look for more.
And honestly, RNG might be able to close out. Jiejie is doing his best to clear out this wave. He's actually succeeding, so RNG won't be able to have a wave to end out the game. They're gonna have to turn to Baron, but Munchables, what is going on?
I don't know. Wei and Jiejie chasing around blast cones again for the second game in a row. Baron will be taken here by RNG, though. This is a huge swing. They don't know. They lack critical information.
Munchables, I need to highlight how important it was that Jiejie killed that wave. Because honestly, RNG might have been able to end the game. It could have just been done. Now, EDG get another chance. Sure, RNG have Baron. RNG are now also on Soul Point. There's still opportunities for them to find to win the game. But as EDG, you still have the scaling. You still have the damage that you always had. Scout, he just went down so fast. I'm not even sure how they got on top of him. We are going to see Ming look for the engage here. Just goes in, uses the Magnet Storm, but where does all the burst come from? Actually, just Xiaohu and Gala just doing a ton of damage. He's the big damage dealer, the big zoner for EDG at this point in time. They take him down, and we're still going. RNG are low.
Yeah, shock blast soaked by Jiejie. Keep your eyes on Xiaohu. He's the savior of RNG. He's the guy that's got to step up if they want to finish this one in style. Getting the Baron buys RNG time. It stops EDG from snowballing, but it's not something RNG can use proactively here. It's only a defensive measure for them right now. Jiejie to regroup with his team here. It's RNG clustering up, and they want long fights. They want to be able to just poke away with Xiaohu if they can.
And that's why Baron is so nice for them, right? Because they can use that wave as a buffer to keep EDG in front of them while they need to clear. Flandre completely flops the ultimate.
Yeah, there was an attempt. We give him a bronze star on that one. A for effort,
and look
but,
at the cooldown. Look at the cooldown, Munchables.
Hang on, Viper takes a shock blast to the side right there. RNG might find a fight. Dawning Shadow across the squad here, but actually the damage is there from EDG. They're fighting at a choke point again. Cryine's on the backside trying to answer. He's finishing off health bars. EDG alone. Gala's there as well. Wei on the scene. Cryin trying to finish the health bars off, but he's alone in the world. Doesn't have any cards. His deck has run dry, and EDG managed to find another fight.
And we have 40 to 50 second death timers, Munchables. I think this might be enough for EDG to end, but when will they learn, Munchables? The choke points! You don't go into the choke points!
Their actions have consequences. When will they learn? EDG finally get themselves on the scoreboard here. It was a slog of a game, but the scaling wins out. The team fighting from EDG wins out. They get onto the Nexus towers. Ming only just respawning, but he's not going to be able to protect this one by himself. The Gravity Storm is there to finish it off. And EDG take down the Nexus and keep their hopes alive in the series.
And that game was much closer than it needed to be, off of one engage found by Ming, off of decisiveness from Xiaohu and Gala, but EDG, they stuck to the game plan. They knew what they had to do. They were fine in these 5v5 death ball grouped up scenarios, constantly finding fights and chokes. They were peeling off of objectives really good. And even their formation, right? There was the one that sticks out in my mind where RNG did make the smart adaptation. They did have Xiaohu rotate around from bot side to put some pressure from a flank, but EDG stood back. They waited out the Ragnarok. They waited to find a better angle to fight. And ultimately, it was that formation and that team fighting and ultimately the patience that led them to this win.
Yeah, and it felt like RNG towards the end were getting a little bit desperate in the fights. And Xiaohu, he tried his damnedest, right? I'm expecting Xiaohu maybe to be the top damage dealer in the game there, because maybe Scout has a shoe-in, but he was hitting like an absolute train towards the end of the games, managed to get onto Viper. Gala as well, in that all-important team fight that found a small advantage for RNG towards the end. Gala was actually one of the guys that stepped up to get the damage in onto Scout and finish that kill. So again, we are seeing individuals on RNG performing here today. We are seeing good things from RNG, but EDG finally show up. That's the most important thing. Game number 1 and game number 2, it didn't even feel like we were watching EDG. And you can see, yeah, it is Scout Xiaohu.
That's the funny thing, right? It still ultimately is Scout versus Xiaohu that is defining a series like EDG versus RNG.
Yeah, they might not be in the mid lane together anymore, but they're still the carries on either of their teams. They're still the guys. Look at the gold graph. Like, Welcome to the LPL. Welcome to the canyons that we get at our goal graphs.
This one is a bit well, the first like 30 minutes is totally fine, right? You expect RNG to have the early game lead. This is like that 35-minute mark where somehow RNG clawed back, but we highlighted the compositions. It was still fine for EDG. And again, for me, I think the MVP of that is Jiejie, just for holding that wave. If you look at the fact of like, hey, we almost threw that game, maybe RNG won off that, but definitely Scout being the most solid performer, a ton of damage. He was set up into situations where he was allowed to do it. And what he was doing in that mid lane matchup was just, absolutely dirty to Cryin.
Yeah, in the laning phase, he has been far and away the better laner. Each and every single game of this series, even if the results from that laning phase haven't always panned out in this series in terms of just the 1v1, in terms of the early level trading, it has been going in the way of Scout. And EDG, it's a sigh of relief for fans everywhere, especially after almost throwing that game. This felt like an EDG win from like 15 minutes in. And then halfway through, they almost threw it away. They do hold on, thanks to Jiejie. And this is now a deep breath out. We can be calm. EDG fans can believe in the potential of the comeback here. That's one game under their belt. They need another 2 in a row if they want to move forward into the finals. We'll see if the reverse sweep is possible after the break.